Hey there, welcome to Bipolar Talks, the place where lived experience meets education. If you're new here, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our upcoming conversations about mental health, especially bipolar disorder. If you're a returning listener, welcome back. Your support helps us keep sharing these important stories. Today's episode is called Real Stories, When Mania Gets Grandiose. We're diving into one of the most bewildering, exhilarating, and sometimes dangerous aspects of mania, grandiosity. So get cozy, stay open-minded, and above all listen with compassion. What does it really feel like when mania tips into grandiosity? In this deeply honest episode of Bipolar Talks, we explore vivid real-life accounts of individuals who've experienced the heights of manic grandiosity. From believing they were destined to change the world, to spending thousands on impossible dreams, to building entire realities in their minds that eventually came crashing down. Join us for an eye-opening and compassionate deep dive into the lived experience of bipolar, disorder, and manic episodes. Whether you're someone living with bipolar, a loved one trying to understand, or simply curious about mental health, this episode is for you. Let's start with the basics. Grandiosity is a hallmark symptom of manic episodes in bipolar disorder. It's a state of inflated self-esteem or unrealistic beliefs in one's importance, power, knowledge, or identity. Now, we're not talking about confidence here. Grandiosity goes way beyond that. This is when someone in a manic episode might believe they're chosen by a divine force, destined to lead a revolution, or convinced they've invented something that will change the world, without any evidence to support those beliefs. To those on the outside, it may seem bizarre or even comical. But inside, for the person experiencing it, the feeling is real, intense, and often unstoppable. Before we share personal stories, let's sit with this idea. What if your mind made you feel like the center of the universe, and no one around you could convince you otherwise? Sound intense? Let's meet some people who've lived through it. Our first story comes from Eli, a 34-year-old software engineer from Austin, Texas. Eli had always been an ambitious guy. But during his first manic episode at 27, ambition spiraled into something else entirely. Eli describes it like this. It started small. I was sleeping less, full of energy, and ideas were flying. First, I thought I was just in a creative zone. But then I became convinced that I'd cracked the code to artificial intelligence. I wrote a 200-page manifesto overnight, emailed it to top CEOs, and took out loans to start a company. I believed I was about to become a billionaire. He maxed out credit cards, hired freelancers to build software that didn't work, and gave TED-style presentations to friends in his living room. He even tried to pitch investors in Silicon Valley by showing up uninvited. The crash came fast and brutal. When the mania wore off, I was in debt, embarrassed, and confused. I felt like I'd woken up from a dream where I was a genius, and realized I was just a guy who hadn't slept for weeks. Eli was later diagnosed with bipolar disorder. With medication and therapy, he's since built a stable life and now works as an advocate for mental health awareness. What would you do if your brain convinced you that you were the next Elon Musk? That's the power and danger of manic grandiosity. Our next voice is Maria, a high school teacher from Chicago who experienced spiritual grandiosity during her second manic episode. I was raised Catholic, Maria says, but I never considered myself particularly religious. But during mania, I became convinced I was chosen by God to deliver a message to humanity. She began fasting, writing scriptures, and walking around her neighborhood preaching on street corners. Friends and family were alarmed. I wasn't violent or angry, she explains. I felt euphoric. I felt like I had a mission. It was the most powerful connection I'd ever felt to anything. Her episode ended after a brief hospitalization. Looking back, Maria remembers it as both beautiful and terrifying. The feeling of being chosen. It's not something I can fully explain. But once I recovered, I also saw how much I'd scared my students, my family. I had to rebuild their trust, and my own sense of reality. Maria now includes her story in teacher training programs, helping educators recognize signs of mania in young people. Have you ever felt too connected to something greater than yourself? Mania can distort that feeling into a dangerous delusion. Now meet Jay, a 41-year-old mechanic turned self-proclaimed inventor. I got this idea to build a water-powered engine, Jay recalls. I was sure I had solved climate change. I quit my job, bought parts, and stayed up 3 days straight building a prototype that didn't work. But I was too high to see it. Jay spent thousands of dollars, convinced government agents were watching him because of his discovery. He even started designing blueprints for a factory he wanted to open. Looking back, I see how wild it was. But in the moment, it was like I was touching genius. Jay's story ends with a stay in a psychiatric unit after neighbors reported erratic behavior. But that wasn't the end for him. It was a beginning. I still love building things. But now I check in with my therapist before I start spending money or skipping sleep. I've learned to spot the signs. From the outside, grandiosity can be shocking. Loved ones often describe it as watching someone become unrecognizable. Eli's sister remembers. He wasn't just ambitious, he was messianic. He wouldn't listen to anyone. It was like he was on another planet. Maria's best friend said, I was afraid to say the wrong thing. She was so sure she was right. If I questioned her, she said I was a demon. Understanding what's happening can help friends and family approach the situation with empathy, not judgment. But it isn't easy. The key is learning the signs before things spiral too far. The manic high always has a come down. For many, that's the most painful part. The realization, the regret, the questions. Did I really say that? How much did I spend? What have I done to the people I love? These crashes can lead to intense depression, shame, and isolation, and sometimes hospitalization. But recovery is possible, with the right support, treatment, and time. Each person we spoke with wanted to share one common message. Grandiosity doesn't define you. It's a symptom. It's not who you are. With treatment, awareness, and support, it's manageable. Here's what they wish others knew. Don't laugh at people who think big during mania. Try to guide them gently. Respect the intensity but don't feed the delusion. Get help early. Don't wait for the crash. We've talked a lot today about mania grandiosity and the messy, vivid, sometimes beautiful chaos it can bring. If you've experienced this yourself, you're not alone. If someone you love is going through it, there's hope. And if this is your first time hearing about manic grandiosity, thank you for listening with an open heart. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe so we can keep spreading awareness. And share this video with anyone who needs to hear it. Until next time, this is Bipolar Talks, reminding you that your story matters, and healing is possible. Disclaimer. This video is for informational purposes only, and does not replace professional medical advice. Please consult a licensed expert for diagnosis or treatment.